Today's lumber is crazy expensive, but we have figured out a hack to make a 16 by 3 foot raised bed for just under $70, and we are going to show you just how to do that.
That's great.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
This bed right here costed us $260, $265, I think, yes. And it's a 12 by 3 foot bed. It is built from pine wood. It's great construction. We have a broken corner over there on that side, but what I like about these beds is these metal holders here that you can just basically drop the boards into them and easily build the bed, and you just screw the boards in here. However, it's super expensive if you just want a raised bed to hold the dirt for you and grow vegetables. We don't want to have mounds, so we chose to go with raised beds, and this area is a little bit wet, so we thought raised beds are going to help us with with reducing the moisture a little bit, especially in the spring. And each one of these right here, the connectors that connect the raised beds together, is $4. So even if you just want to go with these connectors right here to build your own raised beds, that's a little bit of an expensive option. So let's show you what we did to make it much cheaper than this right here. But by the way, these are not included in the raised beds. These are just some hoops that we cut from a thick metal gauge wire just to create kind of a hoop house over the raised beds.
Later episode.
The depth of these two beds is identical, but this one is the one we built, or my husband built, and the other one is the one we purchased. I think I might have mistaken on the name of the wood. I think it might have been spruce instead of pine. This over here is made of pine. Each board costed us $10 for an 8 by... What are the dimensions for that?
1 inch thick, 8 inches deep,
Yes.
and 8 feet long.
Over here we have connectors, metal connectors to connect the bed together, and they are smaller than the other connectors. However, they do the job. They hold the bed together and they stop it from falling apart. And yeah, I mean, pretty much. And each one is $1, each one of these connectors.
Or less. The purpose of a raised bed is to contain the dirt and give you some depth to the soil. Like my wife said, that by lifting the soil up, by having a pile of soil here, we'll have less of a water issue, because this area here gets pretty muddy in the spring and it delays our gardening by the season. So to expand the season, one thing we're doing is building beds. You could go with mounds, but the problem with mounds is when you get rain, and this area does get quite a bit of rain, it'll wash the dirt away and you lose a lot of minerals that you want, and you end up with a mess. So by putting a bed in just to hold the dirt in place, you get to save a little bit on that. Pardon my squinting, the sun's in my eyes. The first thing that we did was we got the cheapest possible lumber I could find, was actually Home Depot in this case. It was $10 for this entire board, 8 foot length, 1 inch thick, 8 inches deep. This wood was called either rough cut or utility wood. Basically, it's a junk wood they couldn't sell. And it's the wood they decided it wasn't worth planing and cleaning up. And I thought that's perfect for a raised bed, because it's not there for beauty, it's there for utility work. And that's the actual name of the wood, utility wood. So what I did was, 8 foot was nice because it fit in my car, in the SUV. So I brought it home, and the very first thing I did was sand it down so you don't get splinters. I don't know if you can see the difference in grain here. You might want a closer view. So as you can see, it's very rough, and after sanding it down, it looks like this. Then I painted it all up with boiled linseed oil. This doesn't have any, what do you call it, oils? No, what do you call it? Not oils. What are they called?
Chemicals.
It is.
It is. Everything is a chemical.
This is made from linseed.
Yes.
It's linseed oil made from linseed, and it's not harmful to the soil if it leaches in. So we thought it was safe to do that. It's important to coat your wood with something, otherwise the rain can cause it to rot more.
Yeah, it was the safest oil we could go with, I
Right.
think.
Right.
Also, just to mention something, pine wood takes a little bit longer to rot than some other woods that you might use. So that's why we chose pine wood for our raised beds also.
One issue with boiled linseed oil is it takes a long time to dry, a long time to get absorbed into the wood. So I'm trying to get this done as fast as I can. So I painted it, I let it sit for a day, and now I'm assembling it. And I'm going to let it sit for another day before filling it up with dirt. I'm going to come around with paper towel and clean off everything that wasn't dried off or absorbed by the wood. So the next thing I did was I cut all the boards to size. That was done after I sanded it down. Once all the boards were to size, I painted them with boiled linseed oil. After
Next.
the boards were allowed to dry a little bit, I brought them out here and I decided to lay it out in the way that I plan on assembling it. So you can take a look at it. So in this layout, I'm going to have three 3-foot boards, two on either end, and then one in the middle. I'm going to be holding everything together with bracketry. These metal brackets are pretty cheap. You can find them pretty much anywhere. And I'll show you how to use it. I position the brackets about where I'm going to use it, just so I can make sure I have all the hardware I need. Of course, you need some steel screws to go along with them. I'm using two different drills just to save on time from switching parts. This first bit here is going to make a pilot hole for the screws, and the second drill is just going to drive the screws into the board. Make sure you're careful not to go all the way through the board, or if you do, not to hurt yourself. Always be aware of where your fingers are. Drill one hole, put one screw, but not all the way down. You want it loose so that it's easier to align later. So you can see here, it's completely loose. So now I just position where I want, pinch it, always be aware where your fingers are, and drill a pilot hole. Still keeping it loose for now. You want to line it up and put the next pilot hole in. Actually, no, I'm going to tighten it. I take it back. So now I'm going to tighten them completely on this board here. So now it's nice and tight on this side. So now I line them up as close as I want. Remember, perfect is not necessary. This is a raised bed. Plants don't care if boards are perfectly aligned. Although your wife might.
I would.
Your wife might care. If she's like Monk. Which mine is.
Wow. I'm not like Monk. Don't believe him.
Alright. So this is actually going to be in the outside. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to flip it over. I'm going to get this center board here. What happened to the parts? Oh, here they are. So I'm basically going to take this board, I'm going to be mounting it just like that. I have two different brackets. Notice they're not the same size. I have it that way so that when I put the screws in, I'm not going to accidentally run into the other bracket. That actually fits right in the middle. If these screws are just a hair long. So I'm going to make it easy on myself. I'm going to plan ahead here. And I'm going to say to myself, well, putting it on here is easy, because if you notice, one side is longer than the other. So I'm going to put the short side on first. That way when I put the long side on later, and I have my drill in hand, I have plenty of room to work. If it was the other way around, it would be a lot harder for me to get the screws in the right place. Just a little thinking ahead helps a lot. Believe it or not, this is the hardest part of the whole project. Well, of course, if you don't have a table saw, cutting the wood's very hard. Like I said, be mindful of where your fingers are. Keeping it loose for now. I'll make sure I line up the back here close. Put the second screw in here. Oh, that went all the way. So I can back it up a little bit if I need to. On the other side, same concept applies. Put the short side on. I'm going to put it right about there. Still loose. Okay. Turn around, put it right on the board, right in the center here. So keeping them loose allows me to see I can position the board wherever I want. That's why loose is so nice. You can see how hard this would have been if the small part of the bracket was on this board here. So now I tighten them up. That one's already tight. Now I can do the other side. There you go. So believe it or not, that was the hardest part. The rest you can just walk home, walk away. It all takes care of itself. Now you take this and you drop it this way. We do the other side. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. This is the other side. You saw what I did for that side. But now over here, first thing I did was mount this plate to join these two boards. Mounted these brackets on here, and I'm simply going to take this, move it up, center it. My tools get in the way. My tools are in the way. Center it up, and then just screw it on. Of course, I'm going to try to level it to make sure everything is all flush. So I'm going to put the screws in on this side, and we'll move on to the next part. So the next step is to take the little board, the 3-foot board, and put it up between the two. Now if you look here, these boards are warped. No shock. All you gotta do is mount it up. It's okay if it's not perfect on that side. And then after this bracket is on it, you're gonna pull it down and it's gonna correct the board. Okay? So to put this bracket on, again, long side, short side, you're gonna be putting the short side on this side here, and the long side is going to reach across this opening, or this the 1-inch side. It's going to go onto here, just like this. That's what we're going to do. All right. I'm just going to put it about in the middle and screw it in. So I want to make this nice and tight here. There you go. So by making it tight, it actually holds in position in this case here. Alright, next step, I'm going to take the board, and having an extra pair of hands on this project is a big help. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to try to level it as best I can and do the pilot hole and then put the screw in.
Do you want me to help you?
I'm going to see if I can do it without my wife's help here. So it's good to use a foot. It's an extra hand. Remember, watch your fingers. See, now it's kind of holding it in place. Come on now. There you go. So you can see here, it wants to flop around because the wood is warped. But once I put the next bracket on, it's going to hold its position, it's going to hold its shape, and we're okay. Now the ground is also kind of screwy, so we should be okay here. I'm going to put this on, and the same exact way I put that side on. One more piece. That's it. So as you can see, this is a really simple project. It's a great beginner project if you want to get your feet wet with woodworking. You don't need a lot of fancy tools, just a basic stuff, a couple screwdrivers. Actually, you only need one screwdriver. I use two just to save on time. A skill saw, a hand saw, table saw, it doesn't really matter. You just got to cut the board in a straight line to whatever dimensions you think is appropriate for your garden. And I think it's also a great way to save money. If you try buying a regular bed, as we talked about earlier, you can pay quite a bit of money for something that you could do on your own for cheap.
Actually, I was looking online for the prices of even small beds, like a 6x4 bed is $65 and up. So the prices of raised beds are very expensive. Yeah. And you can see that we built a 16 by 3 foot bed for just under $70, and you can do that too. So we want to thank you guys for watching, and if you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications of whenever we upload new videos. And I'll be leaving a link over here for how we put up the trellises in our garden, the cattle panel trellises. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.